there we go. Wednesday, October 30th, Halloween Eve, as we get a bit farther with our outsiders stuff. Congratulations, I learned did not kill you yet. We have another attempt to kill you in a week, and then we'll see what happens. Again, schedule for today, you'll go from here, not to 4th period. You've already done 4th period, but you get to go from here to 5th to 6th to 7th. And then
why does 7th period have to be the longest one?
well, because it gets out at, instead of 57, it gets out at 4.
But the bell rings at 8:58.
Okay. And then just my one kid who's standing, apparently.
Don't tell her.
Snacks in class, good to go there.
It's literally just a flashback.
For tomorrow, good to go there. And for you guys, I have officially put it on there and directions to help you as far as the homework goes. This is where it's going to walk you through everything you're supposed to do. I have example ones on there. I even wrote up 5 example ones for you. It is going to be due this coming Monday at midnight. As long as it's turned in by Tuesday, then you should be fine. There are my example ones for you to try to help you out as you go through and take a look at it. And then same thing from there, the examples. Hopefully you have more of the ones that are like this and less of the I like knives.
I like knives.
That's up to you guys. Apparently some of you guys just really like knives, which
What happens if we like knives?
If you don't like knives,
No, what happens if we do like
then you need to give me more of an explanation about why you like knives.
Because they're nice.
Because they're short.
Because you can do stabby, stab,
Look
stab,
at
and
you
then
guys.
go
You're
dead,
already
dead, dead.
writing extra stuff. Go you.
I like knives
Because they're cool.
And then let's see, we had to finish chapter 2, so we can start chapter 3 today, which was all of a page for you guys. Oh, I did add this for you. There is also an outsiders page on there, which is just links to what do you call those things? Audiobooks. So if you're wanting to get a chance to go and not read it yourself, the drawback is it's not me reading it, it's like some other person reading it. I feel the same way.
You should not fun.
So if
You
you're...
should make an audio book of the outside.
You should, except it already exists, and that's why there's a link, so there you go.
No, you should make
Or
it.
you could just read it in your own head.
I don't
I did.
If I lose my book, could I just use the ebook and not pay B points?
Oh no, you can still use that, but it still costs you B points. Because this is a whole thing about responsibility. Yeah. You know, that thing that we kind of struggle with a little bit sometimes.
That's not
Not you.
responsible.
I don't think
You.
Ben cared about losing B.
Hey,
Yeah.
not you.
I can't.
You.
Wait, you were dead then.
Now she's not.
I got
That's how not being dead works.
I was making sure she was
Let's
dead.
see, so we have our greaser people, just to keep reminding you. Soci people, just reminding you.
No.
Sorry.
Stop.
Shoes.
Stop.
And we have our name. Now that we're finding out more about the different people that go into it, then, between Derry and Dally, which one is the one that's related to Ponyboy?
Daddy.
Which one's the big loser?
Daddy. Oh yeah, literally. Johnny's risen.
Then we got through chapter 2, where we did our
Kool-Aid!
I love cigarettes.
the drive-in, we did the theater, new picture, little seats from Clemson, then the gas jockeys and how they were working, then we got to them hanging out and talking, the key, Cheshire Cat, which was 2-bit,
Too big.
and then
Get Rizzy.
I love those.
so then, as I was, that's
like this
ish is someone's drawing. When I was going through and typing in stuff and looking for pictures to help you out, I found one of someone had drawn their version of Ponyboy and Cherry and talking, and so I was like, hey, I'll add that on there so it makes just a little bit more imagination for you. So when Ponyboy and Cherry are talking at the theater and they're in line and we're finding out what happened to Johnny, he mentions a car that he saw. Do you remember what kind of car it was he mentions?
Mustang. Oh no.
So when they talk about this blue Mustang, this is what they're going to be talking about. Because it does show up again coming up later in the story. And so, what happens to Johnny for the people in the blue Mustang? What was the signifying, or the identifying feature of the person who beat him up?
They smell.
A whole bunch of rings on his hand. And so apparently he had like a big... Uh-oh. And so he had a whole bunch of rings. It's almost a soch.
Johnny.
And so that... Pay attention to those two.
We all know ginger.
Pay attention to Blue Mustang and people wearing lots of rings, because those are going to be showing up later on to try to help you out. And then we got to end of chapter 2, where we have all those people again. Alright, now we get to go to chapter 3, and now is where we start getting into the big things happening. Saying bop, 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 bop. Girl, you did. Chapter. So now we're going to pick up after the movie ends, and check the thing real quick. Okay. I was reading ahead a little bit to see where I was. We're almost to our first big thing happening. Chapter 3. After the movie was over, it suddenly came to us that Cherry and Marcia didn't have a way to get home. Two-Bit gallantly offered to walk them home. The west side of town was only about 20 miles away, but they wanted to call their parents. Just so you have an idea, when he says the west side of town was only 20 miles away, have you ever been downtown where the big circle is? Yeah, that's like 13 miles away. So that's like halfway home, if you can imagine walking that far. That's really far to walk, so I'm going to guess no. But that was nice of them to offer. But they wanted to call their parents and have them come and get them. Two-Bit finally talked them into letting us drive them home in his car. I think they were still half scared of us. They were getting over it, though, as we walked to Two-Bit's house to pick up the car. It seemed funny to me that Soches, if these girls were any example, were just like us. They liked the Beatles and thought Elvis Presley was out, and we thought the Beatles were rank and Elvis was tough, but that seemed the only difference to me. Of course, greasy girls would have acted a lot tougher, but there was a basic something. But there was a basic sameness. I thought maybe it was money that separated us. Real quick, because those were old. Do you guys know who the Beatles were?
Yeah.
And Elvis?
They're bums.
So, Beatles were who the Soches liked, because they're wanting like the big popular people, and the Beatles were big and popular. And then the Greasers were more fond of Elvis Presley, because I mean, that right there is greaser hair if I ever saw it. So he had more of that greaser look going to him, and the Beatles had more of the preppy, Sochie look going for them. So the two of those that were talking there. So I thought it was money that separated us. No, Cherry said slowly when I said this. It's not just money. I mean, part of it is, but not all. You greasers have a different set of values. You're more emotional. We're sophisticated, cool to the point of not feeling anything. Nothing is real with us. You know, sometimes I'll catch myself talking to a girlfriend and realize I don't mean half of what I'm saying. I don't really think a beer blast on the river bottom is super cool, but I'll rave about one to a girlfriend just to be saying something. She smiled at me. I never told anyone that. I think you're the first person I've ever really gotten through to. Yeah, she was coming through to me all right, probably because I was a greaser and younger, and you're the... So she didn't have to keep her guard up with me. Rat race is a perfect name for it. We're always going and going and going and never asking where. Did you ever hear of having more than you wanted so that you couldn't want anything else and then started looking for something else to want? This seems like we're always searching for something to satisfy us and never finding it. Maybe if we could lose our cool, we could. That was the truth. Soches were always behind a wall of aloofness, careful not to let their real selves show through. I'd seen a social club rumble once. The socias even fought coldly and practically and impersonally. That's why we're separated, I said. It's not money, it's feeling. You don't feel anything, and we feel too violently. And she was trying to hide a smile. That's probably why we take turns getting our names in the paper. Two-Bit and Marcia weren't even listening to us. They were engaged in some wild conversation that made no sense to anyone but themselves. I have quite a rep for being quiet, almost as quiet as Johnny. Two-Bit always said he wondered why Johnny and I were such good buddies. You must make such interest in conversation, he'd say, cocking one eyebrow. You keeping your mouth shut and Johnny not saying anything. But Johnny and I understood each other without saying anything. Nobody but Soda could really get me talking until I met Cherry Valance. I don't know why I could talk to her. Maybe for the same reason she could talk to me. The first thing I knew, I was telling her about Mickey Mouse, Soda's horse. I'd never told anyone about Soda's horse. It was personal. I think I have. No. Do I not have? Wait, am I going the wrong way? I don't have it on there. Aw, I thought I had a picture of Mickey Mouse. I apologize.
Mickey Mouse.
The horse he's talking about. Soda had this buckskin horse, only it wasn't his. It belonged to a guy who kept it at the stables where Soda used to work. Mickey Mouse was Soda's horse, though. The first day Soda saw him, he said, "That's my horse," and I never doubted it. I was about 10 then. Soda Pop is horse crazy. I mean it. He's always hanging around stables and rodeos, hopping on a horse every time he gets a chance. When I was 10, I thought Mickey Mouse and Soda looked alike and were alike. Mickey Mouse was a dark gold buckskin, sassy and ornery, not much more than a colt. He'd come when Soda called him, and he wouldn't come for anyone else. That horse loved Soda. He'd stand there and chew on Soda's sleeve or collar. Gosh, Soda Pop was crazy about that horse. He went down to see him every day. Mickey Mouse was a mean horse. He kicked other horses and was always getting into trouble. "I've got me an ornery pony," Soda'd tell him, rubbing his neck. "How come you're so mean, Mickey Mouse?" Mickey Mouse would just chew on his sleeve and sometimes nip at him, but not hard. He may have belonged to another guy, but he was Soda's horse. Does Soda still have him? He got sold. They came and got him one day and took him off. He was a real valuable horse, pure quarter. She didn't say anything else. I was glad. I couldn't tell her that Soda had bawled all night long after they came and got Mickey Mouse. I mean, I'd cried too, if you want to know the truth, because Soda never really wanted anything except a horse, and he'd lost his. Soda had been 12 then, going on 13. He never let on to Mom and Dad how he felt, though, because we never had enough money, and, well, usually we had a hard time making ends meet. When you're 13 in our neighborhood, you know the score. I kept saving my money for a year, thinking that someday I could buy Mickey Mouse back for Soda. You're not so smart at 10. You read a lot, don't you, Pony Boy? I was startled. Yeah, why? She kind of shrugged. I could just tell. I bet you watch sunsets, too. She was quiet for a minute after I nodded. I used to watch them, too, before I got so busy. I pictured that, or tried to. Maybe Cherry stood still and watched the sunset while she was supposed to be taking the garbage out. Stood there and watched and forgot everything else until her big brother screamed at her to hurry up. I shook my head. This seemed funny to me, that the sunset she saw from her patio and the one I saw from the back steps was the same one. Maybe the two different worlds we lived in weren't so different. We saw the same sunset. Marcia suddenly gasped. "Jerry, look what's coming." We all looked and saw a blue Mustang coming down the street. Johnny made a small noise in his throat, and when I looked at him, he was white. Marcia was shifting nervously. "What are we going to do?" Cherry bit a fingernail. "Stand here. There isn't much we can do." "Who is it?" Two-Bit asked. "The FBI?" "No," Cherry said bleakly. "It's Randy and Bob." "And?" a few other of the socially elite checkered shirt set. Your boyfriends? Johnny's voice was steady, but standing as close to him as I was, I could see he was trembling. I wondered why. I mean, Johnny was a nervous wreck, but he never was that jumpy. Cherry started walking down the street. Maybe they won't see us. Act normal. Who's acting? Two-Bit grinned. I'm a natural normal. Wish it was the other way around, I muttered. Two-Bit said, don't get mouthy, pony boy. The Mustang passed us slowly and went right on by. Marcia sighed in relief. Whew, that was close. Cherry turned to me. Tell me about your oldest brother. You don't talk much about him. I tried to think of something to say about Derry. Shrugged. What's to talk about? He's big and handsome and likes to play football. No, I mean, what's he like? I feel like I know Soda from the way you talk about him. Tell me about Derry. And when I was silent, she urged me on. Is he wild and reckless like Soda? Dreamy like you? My face got hot as I bit my lip. Derry? What was Derry like? I started to say he was a good old guy, but I couldn't. I just burst out bitterly. He's not like Soda Pop at all, and he sure ain't like me. He's hard as a rock and about as human. He's got eyes exactly like frozen ice. He thinks I'm a pain in the neck. We like Soda. Everybody likes Soda, but he can't stand me. I bet he wishes he could stick me in a home somewhere. And he'd do it too if Soda'd let him. Two-Bit and Johnny were staring at me now. No, Two-Bit said, dumbfounded. No, Pony Boy, that ain't right. You got it wrong. Gee, Johnny said softly. I thought you and Derry and Soda got along real well. Well, we don't, I snapped, feeling silly. I knew my ears were red by the way they were burning, and I was thankful for the darkness. I felt stupid. Compared to Johnny's home, mine was heaven. At least Derry didn't get drunk and beat me up or run me out of the house. And I had Soda Pop to talk things over with. That made me mad. I mean, making a fool of myself in front of everyone. And you can shut your trap, Johnny Cade, because we all know you ain't wanted a home either, and you can't blame him. Yeah, he's lashing out a little bit there. Probably not the best thing to say to your best friend.
Especially with Two-Bit on.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out. Johnny's eyes went round, and he winced as though I belted him. Two-Bit slapped me a good one across the side of the head, and hard. I'm not one for violence, but this was probably a little deserved on that one. It was kind of a jerk move. Shut your mouth, kid. If you wasn't Soda's kid brother, I'd beat the tar out of you. You know better than to talk to Johnny like that. He put his hand on Johnny's shoulder. He didn't mean it, Johnny. I'm sorry, I said miserably. Johnny was my buddy. I was just mad. It's the truth, Johnny said with a bleak grin. I don't care. Shut up talking like that, Two-Bit said fiercely, messing up Johnny's hair. We couldn't get along without you, so you can just shut up. That ain't fair, I cried passionately. It ain't fair that we have all the rough breaks. I didn't know exactly what I meant, but I was thinking about Johnny's father being a drunk and his mother a selfish slob. Two-Bit's mother being a barmaid to support him and his kid sister after their father ran out on him. And Dally, wild, cunning Dally, turning into a hoodlum because he died if he didn't. And Steve, his hatred for his father coming out in his soft, bitter voice and the violence of his temper. Soda Pop, a dropout, just so he could get a job and keep me in school. And Derry, getting old before his time, trying to run a family and hold on to 2 jobs and never having any fun, while the Socias had so much spare time and money that they jumped us and each other for kicks, had beer blasts and river bottom parties because they didn't know what else to do. Things were rough all over. All right, all over the east side. It just didn't seem right to me. And there we stop. With me getting a chance to explode and yell. I would love to keep you longer, but the bell's going to ring and you're probably going to want to go to 5th period. I know how much you love that class instead.
43.
Rumor is the bottom of 43.